Good morning, all. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. My husband and I have a very extended family, and we had 40 people in and out of the house starting Friday morning, and they just left, some of them, this morning. So I just couldn't find time or a quiet place to record this week's lecture, so I wrote it out for you. It's there, but it's not a video. It's a Word file, and you should go and read it in conjunction with the stuff we've been doing this week. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit about a couple things this morning that we ought to be looking at midterm. We are halfway through, and I put in midterm grades this morning into the WebAdvisor system. As far as I know, at COD, midterm grades don't really mean anything, but you might want to take a look. That's where you stand right now. And in my experience, for most students, where you are at midterm is pretty much where you're going to be at the end of the term, unless there's some substantial and major changes between now and the end of term. So take a look at that. If it's not where you need to be, step it up. Let me know how I can help. Ask me for advice if you want. But there you are, okay? The other thing about these extended let me go back. When I gave you your last essay back, I put on there the time that you've invested in being on the class site so far. It went anywhere from a minimum of 4 hours to in the neighborhood of 20 or 25 hours. I know that's not a real accurate measure because I know it's totally possible to print the stuff off and read it offline, which won't record as being on the class site. And so I don't place much stock in that. But if you weigh that against the on-campus class, if you go and look at the schedule for the on-campus English 1As, the time spent in the classroom is 8 hours and 20 minutes a week. And if you were in my class on campus face-to-face, you would be expected to be in class 4 days a week, a little over 2 hours a day, for a total of 8 hours and 20 minutes a week. And if you didn't meet that requirement, you wouldn't pass the class. So you might compare your own performance and your own time investment to what you would be absolutely expected to do if this were an on-campus class. Now, there's a little overlap there. When I teach this class face-to-face on campus, some of the research and writing that you're doing on your own, I would be doing in those 8 hours and 20 minutes a week. So some of it you'd be doing in the classroom. So there's not a real correlation here, but again, time is the richness that you invest in your project or you don't. But that's what the state expects, 8 hours and 20 minutes, but in seat in the classroom per week, for a total of 72 hours invested over 8 weeks. Okay, so you can take that figure as you want to take it. But if you've invested 4, 5, 6, 10 hours in 4 weeks, and that's really all you've invested in the class, you won't be successful. I just need to tell you the truth. Okay, but you've got to judge that. I can't judge it. Let me tell you about the shift in education that's happened over the last several years, and then I'll leave it at that. There's been a change in the last 10 years or so. The state's gotten tired of shelling out bucks for Billy Bob to be still in college at age 35, still taking basket weaving classes, still trying to figure out what he wants to be when he grows up, especially when there are deserving students who can't get into these classes. So the state has adjusted things over the last few years so that Billy Bob really can't do that anymore. There's been this push to complete, to get on through, to get out, to finish the job, and stop wasting taxpayer money, frankly, is the state's position. I'm not saying it's my position, it's the state's position. So But in my opinion, as a professional educator, and I've seen this come and go already now twice in my career, that push is often at the expense of quality of education. And I'm of the mind if we can't deliver quality, we ought to get out of the business. But I'm not a politician. So I just wanted to let you know there's been that shift to rush through, and there's been that shift to allow students to load themselves up with more than they can possibly do. And I think that is ill-advised in some cases. I mean, I don't know if that's the case with any of you, but I'm noticing people who having this pattern of missing the forums and losing those points, which really are pretty much giveaway points. There were 50 points in play last week, and I would make a guess that most people who garnered all 50 of those points probably spent 2 or 3 hours the whole week to get those 50 points. So, again, I'm not going to nag you about that. You know, you're adults, this is college, and I'm not your mother, so you must do as you wish. But know that especially in the summer, we're kind of caught in that catch-22. To get it done, but still to maintain the quality of our work, it's really hard. It's hard for me and it's hard for you, and I understand that. And I'd simply say that by way of saying if you're not where you need to be, and if you look at your investment of time, if you're not investing enough time, that's why you're not where you need to be. It's that simple. If you could, can you make the change? Can you not? I don't know. So that's the deal. There's been that shift, and I think it's for the best in the long term. But the pendulum has gone a little farther in the other direction than I'm entirely comfortable with, and it'll swing back, and things will come to an equilibrium again. But politicians are politicians; they do what they do, and I wish we could control their actions, but we can't. Once we elect them and put them in office, we let the clowns loose to run the circus. So I want to encourage you all to do the best you can, and I want to encourage you and try to help you to make the changes that some of you need to make. And, I've been where you are. I flunked out of classes. I failed English 1A twice before I got it together and completed the class successfully. So, been there, done that. Okay. We have, by way of letting you know what's coming, we have 2 more projects. One is the critique essay, which you are finishing up this week. That very much builds on what you did last week. So if there's holes in your mastery from last week, the very best thing you could do early in the week is get back into the last week and fill those holes up so that you're not building on a foundation that's going to fall down when you try to do the critique. That's worth 100 points, up to 100 points. And then there's a 200-point capstone research project, which is going to take the final 3 weeks of the class to complete, and that's worth 200 points. So that's what's coming, and you know where you are now, you know pretty clear where you stand, and you kind of have decided how it's going to go, and if it's not going the way you want it to go, then the next step would be to try to make another choice, make another decision. Our records are going pretty well, actually. Of the online English 1A classes, our attrition rate has been really low, and so I'm attributing that to your perseverance and your dedication to your education more than anything else. So remember, there's only 4 more weeks to go. We can hang in there, we can finish it up, and we can do well in the process, which is my major concern, is to deliver a quality education within the restraints that we're given, and making as few compromises as possible. So you might want to take a look at that. You might want to think about that. One last thing, the syllabus says that a student who misses a certain number of classes, or there are other conditions under which a student may be dropped, and may is the operative word. I need to look you in the eye and tell you the truth. I'm not going to do that this time. Frankly, I'm learning Canvas, although I have some experience. I'm learning parts of it just like you're learning parts of it, and frankly, that's going to be too much trouble for me to try to keep track of all that. So if you decide you want to drop the class, you will need to drop it. I will not drop you. Okay, I'm not going to do it. And there is some date, and I can't tell you what it is, but you can find it in the class schedule. There's a date past which you cannot drop. Obviously, I would much prefer the handful of you who are really having some difficulty, I'd much prefer to see you turn that around. But it makes more sense to drop the class rather than to fail it and have that F on your permanent record, in my opinion. Again, that's just me. Okay? If there's anything at all I can do, I will be around this week. I will be in the office hour this tomorrow, Wednesday, will I? I won't be. I'm sorry. I have to reschedule the office hour. I've got a meeting at school tomorrow. So I'm going to reschedule the office hour, and I'll let you know about that. But I will be available for questions, comments, and other things in an office hour later in the week. Okay? Hang in there, guys. We're almost done. Thanks. Bye.